Hey, what's up, everyone? It's the Lemesis, your nemesis, but you can call me Lem. I'm going to try my best not to laugh a lot today, but today the podcast is called A Well-Groomed Man. Matt LaFleur is a well-groomed man. He inspires me a lot. I think I might take a shower right after this podcast. And then I might schedule a haircut as well. Because we know for sure whenever he gets on the field, he's going to represent those eyebrows. He's going to represent that hairline. But our defense and our offense won't do anything of the sort. They won't be well groomed. They won't be put together. They won't be disciplined. So we got a well-groomed man who's the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. But we have an undisciplined team that's just not good enough. Let's get started. This is Just Another Cheesehead podcast, and I welcome you guys today. And like I said last week, or just a few days ago, this is not one of those, like, I don't want to be right. I really want you to understand, I don't want to be right. And I think as we continue to lose, like I stated earlier on several episodes before, we're going to keep losing, guys. It's not going to get better at all, unfortunately. I want to pull up the schedule so you guys can somberify this with me. We're going to be losing. We lost against the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, unfortunately, is out for the season. I know he's a quarterback on a rival team, but from what I've seen online, it looks like Kirk Cousins is going to be out. Looks like he has an Achilles. It didn't look good. We got the Rams next week. I know the Rams got the brakes beat off of them today, but they're better than us. So, the Rams they're spiraling out of control and they need a W. So why don't you play the Green Bay Packers? Then we have the Steelers. We're losing to them. The Chargers, the Lions, the Chiefs. I think we might have a chance against the Giants, but then we play the Bucks. I think we have a chance against the Panthers. Then we play the Vikings again. We might, I might change my mind on that game, week 17. Since Kirk Cousins is out for the season, who knows how demoralized they're going to be at that point in time. And then we all know the Bears suck. So there's a lot of L's right there, guys. There's a lot of L's that I see in our future. And the numbers don't look great either. Minnesota now is 4-4. The Packers are 2-5. In the first quarter, the Vikings put up 7. Second quarter, we both put up field goals. Then Minnesota took over in the third, putting up 14 points to our 7. Final score 24-10. Again, we started off slow, and by the time the game turned around and there was opportunities to try to come back because injuries or placency of the defense. In this case, Minnesota didn't become placent defensively, and they shut us down. Jordan Love threw a pick. It was stripped from Reed, but I still think it wasn't the best throw. But either way, we lost. So total yards on we had 270 yards. The Vikings had 346. We had 196 passing yards to their 284. Only 74 rushing yards to their 62. I do think that's a key component to how our team is going to play moving forward. I mean, you can't give Jordan Love 41 attempts. Did he throw 41 times? He threw 41 attempps and only had 24 completions for 229 yards, a touchdown and an interception. That's not going to cut it. And then running, he had the highest average, Jordan Love, and he had more yards rushing than Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, almost combined. Like, that's almost combined. Aaron Jones had 7 carries for 29 yards. Dillon had 6 carries for 11. And he gave Jordan Love 4 carries for 34 yards. And I know he was rushing when the pocket, was collapsing on him for a lot of those carries, if not all of them. But you got to run the ball. This is really terrible. Another week, another L. I think I'll probably my voice will be lower and more somber as we continue to lose every single week, because it isn't going to get any better. We have a well-groomed man, but not a well-groomed head coach. And I hope you understand the difference between the two of those statements. It is rough to watch this. It's depressing. We don't have Aaron Rodgers to blame anymore. I'll tell you that. We do not. And we're seeing a lot, right? The proof is in the pudding. We're seeing a lot of what people speculated over the years have said, what I have said, and it's just all coming to fruition. We continue with the stats here. We had 16 first downs to their 24. Our third down efficiency we had 5 of 14. Oh, my goodness. Fourth down efficiency, 1 of 4. We ran 62 plays. We allowed 4 sacks. Punted the ball 4 times. We had 11 penalties for 99 yards. 1 interception, and time of possession was definitely in the Vikings' favor. 36 minutes for them, 23 for us, almost 24. So this is just not good enough, and the worst part about it is we were at home. And, we travel well. We go across the country. But I think if we keep this up, people are going to stop buying tickets. They're going to start selling them. Because, man, it was still cool to see the entire stadium till almost the last second was filled. But then you had all the skull chants, and it was bound to happen, guys. Let's be real. It was bound to happen. We kept winning. We kept rubbing it in. We kept pissing them off. We are the champions. We are Titletown, and we've won almost every year. Even the years when we didn't win the division, we ended up winning the Super Bowl anyway. So it was bound to happen that the Lions and the Vikings and the Bears still suck, but it was bound to happen there would be years where things wouldn't work out in our favor. And that's just the way life is. Did we think it would happen this soon? Did I think it was going to happen in 2023 when Aaron Rodgers isn't retired and somehow he would get traded to another team? I didn't see that happening. Even though it happened to most of the greats, and even the great one who QB'd before Aaron Rodgers, it happened to him as well. I still had to see it to believe it, and here we are. And this is the team that Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur put together. This is what they saw. They tried to set the right expectations. And, wow, I think this is below the expectations of what they set out, to be honest with you. And today, on today's podcast, I'm going to try not to be a broken record, even though I will take stabs and jabs here and there. Today, we're going to go over word for word what Matt LaFleur said in the press conference. So we got the 8 minutes of his press conference today after the game. We have most, if not all, the audio, so I'm just going to allow it to play, respond. I don't know about all the copyright issues and stuff, so who knows? Maybe this will get me a strike. If it does, I won't do it again. But we're not going to show the video. We're just going to play it, and hopefully that's good enough. And we're going to go from there. I'll say this. If you're watching me on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. If you're following me on Twitch, hit me up with a follow. Or if you're watching me on Twitch, hit me up with a follow. I greatly appreciate it. But let's get started. So, what do you have to say, Matt LaFleur?
Well, that was obviously tough to watch. Just way too many mistakes, penalties, drops, not being able to convert on third down, conversely, not getting off the grass on third down, struggles in the red zone, starting the game out, I want to say 4 3-and-outs. It's hard to get into a rhythm offensively. And then, when we need a stop or whatever, we weren't able to do that.
We weren't able to do that. Why? Why weren't we able to do that, Matt LaFleur? It was tough to watch, especially when you were the one who orchestrated what we were supposed to be watching today, right? You knew what we were going to be watching today before any of us were tuning into the game. You're the head coach. You're the orchestrator. You're the main man. You get paid the big bucks. You call the plays. There were too many mistakes. Well, that sounds like a lack of discipline. That sounds like something that should be coached. There were too many penalties, drops. That still sounds like a lack of discipline, and that's something that should be coached. And then we weren't able to convert on third down. So for whatever reason, we didn't call the right plays. Our men weren't prepared. Again, that comes down to a lack of discipline, and they weren't coached. I mean, that's the whole point of why you coach, why you're the head coach, why you have different members of your staff. You prepare your players for situations in the game. We heard over many years, you would see all the great head coaches around the league, specifically Bill Belichick, Schottenheimer, Shanahan, whoever you want to name, Reed, and these guys would train their players, help their players, allow the players to practice in game-type settings, and be ready. And all I'm seeing is you're just telling on yourself, Matt LaFleur. Think about it. And I don't know if I hear enough credit you taking on this situation. What else do you have to say, Matt?
Although I do think that our defense did provide and special teams did provide some opportunity for us when it was 24-10 to have an opportunity to come back in that game, which you got to capitalize on those ops, and we have not been able to do that. So extremely disappointed, and we'll find out what everybody in that locker room, what we're all made of. So
we'll find out after being 2-5 what we're all made of. I thought this was interesting. I think we all know what we're all made of at this point. We're 2-5. We're not good. We're trash. We're undisciplined. We're young. And it's all on you. I just don't understand how you can go week to week and repeat the same thing. And there's no bye week. Guys, you guys understand. There's no bye week coming up. There is no, man, our guys aren't rested. We need to recoup. No, you had the recoup. You had the trip to Mexico. You went and took your little vacation. You had a good time. You were sipping Mai Tais on the beach. You did that 2 weeks in a row. And you came back and you still provided L's. And here we are again with another L. Man. So I love what the reporter says. Matt, when you look at the team right now, what do you think?
I see a lot of mistakes, quite frankly. We've killed ourselves with penalties, drops.
So you've killed yourself with penalties and drops because you haven't practiced enough. You haven't made a point of emphasis enough. Clearly, if you did, you would see better results. To me, we got to be realistic about the situation here. Everybody in the NFL is talented, okay? That's why when people criticize players, when people criticize athletes, let's be real. You're being criticized against your opponents. You're being criticized against your peers, right? When people talk about LeBron James and Michael Jordan, who's the best? Clearly it's Michael. Let's not even argue about this. But is LeBron better than me and you and like 99% of the world's population? Yeah. So if we don't call him the GOAT, if we don't say he's in our top 10 or top 15, is that really disrespecting him that much? No. Right? So these guys who are playing on the field, they're talented. They're athletes. They're better than the average human being walking on the planet. So it's not a bad thing to criticize them because you're criticizing them in comparison to their peers. So is Matt LaFleur a great head coach? No. Is he even a good head coach? No. But guess what? Am I a head coach? No. So if Matt LaFleur is a bad head coach, what do you think I am? I'm terrible, right? But I'm not a head coach. He claims to be one, and he's trying to be one, and he's doing a very poor job at it. So I like to set my criticism in the proper perspective so that when we hear it, you understand. I'm not trashing on this man. I'm not trying to disrespect this man. It's you have a job. You're getting paid for it. Are you doing good at your job or not? No. I think that's very fair criticism. And I think they pay you enough for that criticism. Now, I think my criticism shouldn't go beyond your work, your field of work, what you've produced, right? I'm not going to get personal, talk about your family, none of that garbage. But what he's producing on the field is not good enough. All I'm seeing is, I mean, you guess you can call it personal when I take a stab at those eyebrows, but they are beautiful eyebrows. How else can I just ignore that? I'm captivated. Look at those eyebrows. But it's hard to think that someone so well groomed, he focuses on the details. How can he not focus on the details of the game? And how can he focus so much on his grooming patterns, but our team is just not groomed enough to produce on the field? You would think someone that detail-oriented would probably be a better head coach. And maybe that's stupid of me to say, but that's at least what I thought. That's me putting 2 and 2 together. And that's what I think is so unfortunate about the whole thing.
We have opportunities to make plays, on the defensive side, and some we make and some we don't. Certainly the third down was a problem today.
Certainly the third down was a problem today. You're damn right it was a problem today. We talked about what you converted on third down today. You were 5 of 14. It's terrible. 1 of 4 on fourth down efficiency. So let's see how much more credit you want to take on the situation today.
I do see a group of men that continues to fight. So that is, if there's anything to hang your hat on, and that we have to continue to fight and scratch and claw and try to find ways to improve. I know everybody's frustrated. I'm frustrated.
I don't know, when you give up 24 points, I mean, I get what he's saying. I just don't agree with him. Situationally, he's stating that, like, our team didn't just lay down, right? Instead of giving up 24, we didn't give up 30. We didn't give up 46. But to me, I didn't look at that performance today as us scratching and clawing to fight. I didn't look at that at all. I didn't see that at all. But I guess we've seen us do that in the past before, and this wasn't quite like that. But to me, when you get beat 24-10, you weren't scratching and clawing. It's just hard for me to equate scratching and clawing to a 24-10 result. It's hard. It's really, really hard. That's a beatdown. And you don't score a touchdown to the third, and then you don't do anything for the rest of the game. That's not scratching and clawing. To me, maybe you can say the defense did everything they could to try to keep us in the game with all the poor attempts we made on offense. So when you say, I see a group of men that continues to fight, maybe the group of men are just the 11 men on defense, right? Maybe that's just the entire defensive squad. If that's what he's saying, okay, we're in agreement there. The defense did everything they could. After every situation they put us in, and here's what I don't want us to start believing. I don't want us to believe our defense is actually good. Our defense is not good. And I'm going to start pulling up some stats. I think my next episode will be kind of like a breakdown of just the stats defensively. I think I'm going to get into Pro Football Focus a bit. I'm not a huge fan of Pro Football Focus, but I don't like allowing the stats to only speak the narrative. Even though I do use stats and I do think stats have a relevance, but I just wanted to incorporate a new element to my podcast, so I think I'll be going that route soon. But what do you think of the lack of effort, Matt LaFleur?
It's certainly not for lack of effort, but ultimately that only gets you so far. You got to go out there and execute and give yourself an opportunity to win games. And, it's disappointing, especially being back in Lambeau, to not be able to find a way to win.
And that is really disappointing. That's what you put on the field in front of all of our fans. 24-10. And we got stomped. And it wasn't even a non-conference opponent. It was our divisional opponent. We hate the purple people eaters. And I cannot believe you allowed that to happen to us. And even when we had an opportunity when Kirk Cousins went out, I thought, man, maybe we can have another opportunity to come back, have one of those BS comebacks, and then people start talking about Jordan Love. But no, the reality is there's too much tape out on Jordan Love. They know what he's all about, and defenses have figured him out. And I think it's over. So let's keep hearing what he's got to say here.
So is there a point where it can't just be young guys making mistakes, and these are things that...
And what?
We're talking that game, young guys game. We're focused on just whoever's out there, the expectation is the same.
You know, I was listening to this, and my wife, she pointed out some very interesting things. She started saying, you know what? He's starting to sound like he's trying to pass the blame around to everyone. He's not really trying to take credit like he once was before. Now, later in his press conference, he wants to take all the credit away or all the blame away from Jordan Love. But for the rest of the team, it's almost like he's trying to protect Jordan Love. Hey, guys, the decision we made to draft Jordan Love, we're not gonna jump all over that, because he knows that's what the conversation is going to be if he allows it to be so. So what he does is he tries to protect Jordan Love, but when it comes to the rest of the team, I'm not going to make it about the young guys anymore. We're focused on just whoever's out there, and the expectation is the same. Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, well, maybe not there, but, you know, wide receiver, Christian Watson, Devontae Adams, doesn't matter. We expect you to produce. I mean, I find that a little ironic. Very ironic.
You know, we've played, 8 games now, or 7 games, whatever it is.
It's actually 7, right? It's not 8. We're 2-5. And are you interested in that, Matt LaFleur?
I'm not interested in that. I think that's an excuse. We'll never do that. We're just going to continue to find ways to try to keep improving, and it starts in practice. And you get a good week of practice, then you go out and play well. And I do think the practices have been, competitive and such like that. But we're not obviously getting the results that anybody wants.
No, I don't want it. I'm glad we're in agreement here. I don't know how the practices have been competitive, right? Then that says a lot more about our team. If what we're producing is 10 points and we give up 24 points or 20 points a game roughly, then it's just a bunch of bums competing against each other. That's kind of how I look at it. I don't know how this could be competitive when we're getting outclassed by all these other teams. I mean, we're just not good enough. We're a 2-win team, and the more and more we see on the field, it's looking like a 3 to 4 win kind of team.
How do you address all these things at once? If you emphasize one or two things, you get what you emphasize. How do you address them all?
I think certainly the lack of disciplined play, and that's paramount, because it doesn't matter if what you're doing if we're getting called for things. Like we got to clean it up. There was, we get holding penalties or whatever it is, false start penalties, backs us up. We already know get back on track situations have been very tough for us.
Again, bro, that's where I need to hear you take responsibility. Certainly the lack of discipline play, and that's paramount, because it doesn't matter what you're doing. Yeah, you need to make sure that they don't have a lack of discipline, because it is paramount. That's on you. That means you got to keep doing it over and over and over again. I don't want to take any responsibility away from Matt LaFleur on this, but I do know when we had the collective bargaining agreement, the players worked out a new condition when it comes to practice, and they currently at the moment don't practice nearly as much as they used to back in the day. And I do think that's a component to what's happening right now, that you're getting a lot of guys who come out of college or who may just go undrafted, and they're really talented. But what happens is because they're talented enough to make it into the NFL, that does not mean they're talented enough to actually be good in the NFL. I think we're seeing the talent pool in the NFL kind of thin. It's almost a counterproductive agreement that they made with the players that I know the players complained about, getting worked hard and 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. I don't know how many days they had, but clearly we're seeing an emphasis on, we're seeing the players, at least on the Green Bay Packers, and I haven't done a deep dive into other teams, just not producing. And I think it all comes down to how much time they have to practice, right? I mean, you have to condition your body. They always say that, like, there's no exercise you can do to prepare you for football besides just playing football. And until you can go straight up full contact, you can't even mimic it when you're trying not to hurt each other and you got red shirts on because you don't want to hit guys. So to me, I think, again, I don't want to take anything away from Matt LaFleur because I do think he deserves all the blame here. Spread it out between the front office. I want to stay consistent. But I also think it's not helping Matt LaFleur because he's not able to get these guys out there to practice as much. Now, I don't want to hear him shift and go to that, right? That's what I get to do. I get the liberty on Just Another Cheesehead podcast of pointing that out and making that a reference to at least take some of the pressure off of him. But to me, he still has to do better, and he still has to figure out new ways. It reminds me of just like all of the years when they just kept making the rule changes, and defensive players for a while struggled with roughing the passer and that new rule that came out that, I mean, you couldn't put any pressure on the QB when you can't land on them and put all your weight on them. So then players had to start sacking the QB and rolling themselves. And it looks like those men, like, they adjusted. So you got to learn to make adjustments, even though I do see a clear flaw in the way they've structured their agreement between the players, because you're going to see a lack of greatness on the field. And that's what I think we're kind of seeing now. I really do. I don't think the NFL needs this extreme parity, because I do think that the NFL is going to do better when you have a few dominant teams at the top, because you want to see what true greatness looks like. So when we had the Patriots, and I'm not a Patriots fan, this is Just Another Cheesehead podcast, but when you had the Patriots, people love to see them lose, right? It was in a sense me against the world, the Patriots against the world for 20 years, going to the Super Bowl 10 of the 20 years that Bill Belichick and Brady were together. But having teams like that were good. Now, you still only had a few elite quarterbacks in the league, and most of the time, those few elite quarterbacks made it to the playoffs more often than not, and their teams are always in contention. So, you have 32 teams. In the end, there was probably only a good, 8 teams in the league. I think that's good. But when you see the talent compared to how it used to be, these top 8 teams in the league are all mediocre, and there's maybe 1 or 2 teams at the top are truly as dominant. So, because you're not even really seeing a lot of great competitive games, in my opinion, and we can look at the numbers to verify that, so I'm not just throwing BS out there. But I do think all these things that I'm bringing up are a factor in why we're seeing just overall, I think, football not being as good as it could be. It goes back to a comment I made a few podcasts back about, I think the NFL is trying to turn into more college football-like, and I think it's going to be detrimental. I do think defenses are getting better, and the rules are helping the offense to try to score more points. But if they continually keep making rule changes like that to protect the offense and take away from the defense, I think, unfortunately, it's going to turn more and more to college football. And again, there's a lot of people who don't watch college, like myself, and the NFL, I think, will suffer from that. But I do think practices have a lot to do with why you're not seeing a lot of discipline on the field. You're seeing a ton of drop balls because they're just not able to get out there and practice as much. It's almost like, these guys, they worked really hard to get into the NFL to make a lot of money, and then that's it. It's like, oh, I made it. I got a lot of money, but now I don't have to produce. That's great. And that might also have to do with just a generation, right? These young cats that are out there, they're just not built the same. They're not built for it tough. And, we don't need to go on that. We can keep that opinion to myself for the time being, but it's just the truth. This generation doesn't seem to be as tough as previous generations. And it's funny because it seems like every old generation of the particular time that you're in, they're always saying that, right? I'm sure if you were around in the 1950s, they were talking trash about the 50s babies and being like, man, these little kids are nowhere near as tough as we were back in the 20s and the 10s. So I think that's always the case, but I think there's some truth to it.
Defensively, there were a couple penalties. I know one was on a critical third down where you get called for roughing the passer. So we just, it's never one person, it's never one guy. It just collectively as a whole, we got to look each other in the eye and we got to demand better, and we need to get better.
Again, you've been saying the same crap, bro. We got to look each other in the eye. How many weeks are you going to look at each other? How many weeks are you going to just stare at each other in a room? Like, you can't keep saying you're going to lose the locker room if you haven't already. How many times can you tell me if I'm on a team, we losing, and the first week we lose, we got to look at each other in the eye. We got to give credit to the Vikings, give credit to the Falcons, give credit to whoever beat us this week. But we got to work hard. We got to play hard. We got to try hard. Look each other in the eye, see what we're made of. Let's see what we're made of. Right, Lem? Right? Yeah, you said that last week, Coach. You said that the week before that, Coach. We've been looking each other in the eye. I think we're on the same page. We don't want to lose anymore, Matt LaFleur. I don't know what's going to happen, me staring in your eyes this week, except for looking at those eyebrows. That's all I'm going to see.
You guys have been so well in the red zone. When you get down there today, when you got down there, didn't work out. Was there anything missing that you saw out there?
Yeah, I know that we had a critical drop, going in.
Critical
with
drop.
An opportunity to cut it to a one-possession game. If we get down there in the 1 yard line, we try to run it in, and that wasn't working, obviously. We got to go back to the drawing board. I got to take a look at the tape and try to find out some better answers for our guys, because whatever we're doing is not working.
Whatever we're doing, whatever you're doing, is 7 weeks of your doing. Whatever you're doing, it's not working.
A couple of those third and longs, and then even the fourth and long when Jordan runs, are you okay with that, or would you rather see him try to, especially on the fourth down, maybe to try to actually wait it out and find something?
Yeah, it's just those are always tough, and I know he's battling. They were playing, everybody was pretty much in the end zone, so the play's off schedule. But I think that is one where, looking at it, you just try to buy as much time as you can, because it is going to be tough to scramble. It's different, I think, if you're in the open field, you might have an opportunity. It's just hard when there's not as much field to defend, and those guys can run up and make a play. So,
yeah, sounds like excuses, right? Every time it goes to Jordan Love, it's everybody else's fault, or he takes responsibility. But when it's the rest of the team, it's everybody else, not Jordan Love. And we got to do better. We got to get, we can't have as many penalties. And that's still on him. And that's the funny part about it. I think he's going to be creating division in the locker room if this keeps up. Of course, winning cures all. But, man, he can't keep saying this. And I don't think we can keep going down in this direction week to week. Eventually the players in that locker room will lose respect for him. I do think so.
But in the heat of the moment, you got to do what you think, and he thought he could get there, and he ended up a couple yards short, and it is what it is. Hopefully, we're not putting ourselves in those situations. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care where you're at on the field when it's 4th and 16 or whatever it was. Those are really tough situations to overcome, and we just had a lot of those today. We were in 3rd and long for a lot of the game, and it's going to be tough sledding when you're in those situations.
Again, excuses, and you'll see with the next question. What do you think of Jordan Love today, and where do you feel like he's trending? Where has he been trending in the last few weeks? I don't know, Matt.
I think that, there's some plays that obviously, I say this every week in terms of there's going to be a couple plays that you want back, but also, like, we got to make some plays for him too. I think we had like 6 drop balls. That's going to be tough to overcome. We got to catch it. We got to throw it better. We got to catch it better. We got to block better. We got to stop having penalties that knock us back and put us in these obvious pass situations.
To me, this is the clip of the press conference. The clip of the press conference. When I heard him say this, I went, man, I gotta transcribe this, and we gotta go over it on the podcast today. What do you think of Jordan Love and where he's trending? And he said, I think there's some plays that obviously I say this every week in terms of there's going to be a couple of plays that you want back. But also we got to make some plays for him too. So Jordan Love only made a few mistakes, but it looks like everyone else is making a lot more mistakes in comparison to him. Now, did we not drop the ball 6 times? We did. I'm sure we probably dropped the ball more. But let's not act like he played so well out there, and let's not act like if he gets 6 more completions, his numbers improve drastically. So, yeah, we got to catch the ball better. And then I like how he tries to throw it in there. We got to throw better. We got to catch better. We got to block better. To me, again, he's creating division within the locker room by protecting his quarterback. And guess what? I mean, did you guys not see what happened to Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson and the Legion of Boom? They were a successful team, and they had grievances in their locker room. The coach would protect Russell Wilson at all costs. I saw a interview, I want to say it was with Marshawn Lynch on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp, where literally, this is Marshawn Lynch, and I'm paraphrasing. Marshawn Lynch he was trying to get buddy-buddy with Russell Wilson and try to build rapport, and there was a game where Russell Wilson clearly just didn't perform well. The coach pulled Russell Wilson away. The way the culture was at the time was everybody would be held accountable for what they did or didn't do, and there was no respects of persons, right? Like everybody was treated the same. But in this instance, the coach just decided to go in front of the rest of the team and just say, hey, no one talked to Russell Wilson. I got it. Now, when you start doing things like that, you set your team up for failure. When I hear things like what I just heard, you're setting your team up for failure. I don't think that's good enough.
We got to find a way to convert a 3rd down early in the game so you can run your offense. I mean, we're running 2-minute offense for half the game.
Again, this is piggybacking off of his comment from before. Again, I keep hearing more excuses. Instead of just saying, bro, we all need to play better and go down the line individually and stop trying to make, concessions for people that you are biased towards because you picked them in the 1st round and you moved up to get them in the draft. Because that's what's going to be looming over you. And it's inevitable. It's like Thanos. It's inevitable. You know what's going to happen. You realize the mistake you made, and you're hoping that you can have as many years as you possibly can to try to turn this around. And what good does it do to, have a quarterback that's not good enough, but then you get all these other players that are great around him, right? We don't want another, Baltimore Ravens with what's his name? We don't need a Trent Dilfer situation, right? We don't need a quarterback that's just good enough to keep us in the games, and then we have this outstanding defense for us to win the game. We don't want that. We don't want a Brad Johnson situation where he's good enough to lead the Bucs to the Super Bowl and win, but he's just not a good enough QB. You don't want these one and done type QBs. You don't need a Nick Foles. You don't need a quarterback who's just this extreme game manager to get you to the big game So you spend a ton of money on defense, but you don't have that guy to take the distance. I think we've seen it time and time again. The teams that win consistently have elite quarterback play. The teams that are one and done, meaning they might get a Super Bowl here and there, unfortunately, they normally have a great defense, right? And that defense carries that mediocre quarterback to the Super Bowl and they win. Now, you can make the argument with the Green Bay Packers. We had Aaron Rodgers, but that was before he got paid. There's another side to that. When you have an elite quarterback, he can't take all the money and pull that away from the team. Now, can I be upset at Aaron Rodgers for doing that? I can't be, because you clearly see they weren't trying to put great talent around Aaron Rodgers. They tried to get as much as they could out of him until they had to pay him what he was worth. And not everybody has the privilege of marrying Giselle. So when you marry Giselle, I don't really got to take a big check when I come home. So he did that for a while, and it really helped him, and it made him look good. And plus, when you have that many rings, man, it's real easy to just keep wanting to win when you see your team trying to make concessions to help you win. But when you see the Green Bay Packers let guys go, not show them respect, then unfortunately it makes a lot more sense to say, bump it. I'm just going to take my money. I'm going to help the next guy who's younger than me, who plays on another team, get the bag. Because to me, at the end of the day, this NFL organization is not about trying to win. They're not trying to keep Titletown alive. They're just trying to be relevant. And they're just trying to manhandle the situation, disrespect players, not give them the credit that they deserve. That's why I have the position that I have when it comes to all of this.
Matt, last year you guys lost 5 in a row, and I know you said you're not going to use the young guys as an excuse, but those guys last year had a little more to lean on. This year, not as much. What's your message to the team as they try and climb out of this hole?
And this is another great clickbait moment.
Keep working. Keep working. Keep working.
At what?
Keep working.
And do what?
Keep working.
What do we need to focus on?
Keep working.
Just keep working?
Keep working.
I need to hear more.
Keep working.
Matt, going back to Jordan for a second, it felt like one of the areas he had made the most improvement had been the indecisive equals ineffective thing. He seemed more decisive. Is he struggling? I don't know what's happening downfield all the time, but does it feel to you like he's maybe being a little more indecisive again right now?
And then I love this.
I don't know. I got to go back and look at all the plays. It's tough to tell sometimes when you're in the heat of the battle because you can't see everything from the sideline.
I can't see.
In regards to
those eyebrows get in the way.
How clean the pocket is in front of him. Was there something that made him get off a read? So it's really hard to sit here and give you a really good evaluation without going back and watching the tape. But it felt like, for the most part, the protection was pretty solid.
I just find that funny. Look how quick he's easy to criticize the rest of the team. And then when it comes to Jordan Love, I got to look at the tape. I'm not going to look at the tape of the defense. I'm not going to look at the tape of the offensive line. I'm not going to see how our wide receivers, maybe something got in the way. Maybe those balls weren't dropped. There's no excuses for those guys. There's excuses for Jordan Love. I'm just saying that's how you see it. If I hear this, if I'm on the team and I'm frustrated and I'm spending hours and I'm grinding, I'm doing everything Matt LaFleur tells me, but I'm still not producing, and then I hear him talk about the rest of the team not being good enough, and then when I hear him talk about Jordan, and I know that dude messed up this play, I know that dude threw that interception, I know that dude isn't the best quarterback to ever walk on the field, and I hear him talk about, hey, dog, we got to look at the tape. Let's not evaluate. It's real hard for me to give you an evaluation, he says, to give you a really good evaluation without going back and watching the tape. I'm not going to give a really good evaluation of anybody else on our team, but I'm going to give you a really good evaluation of Jordan Love. That's what I'm hearing. Now, y'all might be mad and say, Lem, stop messing with the man, but that's what he said. That's what he's saying.
But we just, I got to go back and look at it. And obviously, always going to be critical as a play caller, making sure that we're giving our guys opportunities to make plays. It did not feel like we had as many mental errors today. It felt like our guys were running the correct routes.
And he tried to clean it up, I think, because mentally, as he's hearing himself speak, he's like, man, I'm really dumping on everybody else. So let's be a little critical of myself. We always got to be critical of the play caller. He could have said himself, but to me, man, I just don't think this is going in the right direction. And I don't know. Like I said last week, what more can I say? We have a well-groomed head coach, but we don't have a well-groomed team. Our team is not disciplined. It's not doing good enough, and I think that's a reflection of our leadership. That's a reflection of our head coach. And I think it's good to end on this note because what are you going to do for next week, Matt LaFleur?
We just got to go back and look at everything. We just got to go back and look at everything. We just got to go back and look at everything.
How many weeks are you going to go back and look at everything, Matt? How many weeks can you do that? You can keep saying the same thing and expect different results. I just think this is so funny. He keeps saying the same thing over and over and over again. We just got to go back and look at everything. Yeah, I wish you would go back and look over everything as well as you look at your eyebrows and your facial grooming. I really do, because I think in the end, we might produce better. We might be better. And unfortunately, we're just not. So I think that's what we got for today. I appreciate you all coming out, listening to me, giving me your ear for a few minutes today. Again, as always, like and subscribe if you're watching me on YouTube. And if you're watching me on Twitch, I was going to say Twitter. On Twitch, hit me up with a follow. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, you should get to know him. It'll be the best decision you ever make in your life. Look up the salvation prayer. Ask him to come into your life. Again, the Green Bay Packers might let you down. Your wife might let you down. Your dog might poop on your shoe. But the Lord Jesus Christ will never let you down. That was a funny one. I kind of made that last part up on my own there. Peace, love, and hap. Love you guys. Catch you next week. Go Pack, go.